Rhett Palmer.
The mayor of the airwaves is ready to go. Talking to people you want to know.
Face to face.
One-on-one. Get the story and have some fun
With Rhett Palmer.
And now, the most trusted name in radio, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves. Former U.S. diplomat David Hunter is in the studio with me today. Good morning.
Good morning, Rhett. Good to be here.
Good to have you here. And he was Pakistan. He was a U.S. diplomat to Pakistan, to Ukraine, to South Korea, to Spain, and to India. And you lived in each of those places at least 2-3 years. Yeah, and that's really something you can get the pulse on people. But anyway, okay, so UN Security Council passes demand for immediate ceasefire in Gaza war. This is breaking news, right? This past week, Russia and China, both permanent members of the UN Security Council with veto powers, rejected a U.S. proposal for immediate ceasefire in Gaza conflict. Then on Monday, an alternative, simpler draft passed with 14 votes in favor and U.S. abstaining. What's going on here?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty big new development. And there are lots of what you call side effects or collateral damage, if you will, depending on how you view this. Obviously, the Israelis and Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu are not very happy with this. They are, in fact, furious.
But they don't have to submit to it.
Well, that's true. And
what are the consequences?
We'll get to that. But at least from the optics point of view, politically, world politics, it now appears that the U.S. is in line with the rest of the world in saying that Israel has pushed beyond acceptable limits, that it is its conducting of this war for 6 months and the destruction that it has wrought on Israel is so, on the Gazan citizens, is so great that the world has decided it's time to stop.
The only thing is, if they leave any remnant of Hamas, they're going to grow again and cause more mischief and trouble and mayhem and murder.
Well, the problem with that argument, that's, of course, Israel's argument, and Benjamin Netanyahu's. He says, we've got to mop up all of Hamas. But the reality is it ignores what is the inspiration for Hamas, what is the cause of the, quote, resistance. Remember, Hamas stands for Islamic resistance against occupation. That's the basis of their fight. They are, I've said this before on the show, they're not some sort of, radical group like ISIS, which is essentially a Salafi, Wahhabi, Islamist extremist group that just wants to kill the infidel. That's not the term. They're not trying to kill the infidel. They're trying to free their occupied land from occupation, or at least secure a guaranteed Palestinian state on the land that they still have as, quote, occupied territory. That's their goal. So when you say,
you're saying that's the goal of...
That's the goal of the Palestinians, including Hamas, including the...
Well, no, Hamas had said they want to eliminate Israel.
The term eliminate means remove from the land that is...
Yeah, they want to remove Israel, too.
The concept...
From the river to the sea.
Yeah, the concept of as I've described before, this fight, it devolved into a what's called a terroristic type action by both sides. Israel was engaged in terrorism against the Brits.
Why use the word devolve? If it evolves, it's still evolving into something. You may not like what it is, but devolve, is that a statement?
Devolve means kind of disintegrating into a chaotic situation. That's the term.
Oh.
Devolution means the collapsing of. Okay, that's an interesting
evolve
term.
Is, you know.
As opposed to evolve.
Yeah, very good.
So anyway, the point is that Netanyahu and the current Israeli government are saying that they have to mop up all of this Hamas ideology, which means until the Palestinians no longer demand an independent state and no longer demand what's called equal treatment and fairness, then they're going to be considered the enemy. And to be honest, they're being made more and more angry, the Palestinians are, by the ongoing 6 months of destruction.
Okay. Let's say that I had a house.
Yeah.
And my next door neighbors come over and they kill one of my children.
Yeah.
So,
I know, the revenge concept. You mentioned that before.
no, I'm not talking about revenge. I'm going to purge them from my neighborhood,
Yeah.
lest they come over and kill more of my children.
But let's suppose that instead of you having a house, let's suppose that there was a village of a bunch of people that were living there.
Okay.
And you suddenly moved into that village and took over several houses and threw the
That's
people
not a true statement.
and threw the people out.
The Israelis were there long ago.
All
God
right,
promised that land.
anyway, we've discussed that before. From the Palestinians' perspective, they've been there for 1,800 years, and
How long
suddenly
have the Jews been there?
the Jews were gone they called them the wandering Jews for a reason.
Yeah, because they were kicked out by
the Romans.
Yeah.
By the Romans. That was
So
that was
now the
in
Jews. Yeah, but they were kicked out.
Yeah. So you
why
can't,
should the Palestinians get to stay? Now the Jews come back, kick them out.
Well,
What the mistake they made was offering them anything. They should have just kicked the Palestinians out. Go find another land.
well,
This is ours.
well.
They were here first
okay.
5,000 years ago.
All right. See, that's why that mentality
It's
runs.
not a bad mentality. It is truth.
No, that mentality.
It's not mentality. It's truth. It's history.
All right, that perspective. Let me use it instead of mentality. Perspective. That
Yeah.
perspective on
The
history.
mentality there would be pejorative.
Yeah, the perspective on
Now,
history.
your face is blocked.
Okay,
which is
that,
not-
all
no,
right, I'll sit
Let's
back.
move it over here.
All right, that perspective on history runs afoul of essentially modern international law. You can't just say, hey, I discovered in the Torah somewhere that country is my country, even though I haven't been there for 1,800
Let's
years.
forget about that. What about the Palestinians? Where are they going to come in? The Jews were kicked out of there by the Romans, and now the Jews want to come back.
Okay, the
And
Palestinians.
where were they when all this went down?
Palestinians are the descendants, DNA-proved descendants of the Canaanites. The Canaanites are the people who lived in that area called Canaan
Yeah.
before Moses and all of those people came in,
So
and
you're telling me the Canaanites were there first?
the Canaanites were there before.
They were the giants or whatever, the Philistines?
Some of them were, the Philistines. Yeah, some of them. They were there first. So,
So you're saying they were there before the Jews, way back then?
correct.
Way back when?
Correct. Okay. So
So the Jews came along as a warring group.
came
and
along
said,
as a warring
"We're
group,
taking-"
and they set up a kingdom for a period of time, the kingdom of
Did
David.
they allow any of the Canaanites to live and stay there?
Some,
they did.
some were allowed and some were not. It
Because
depended.
I just saw a lady on YouTube, and she's a Muslim, and she said, I live in Israel. We're treated very well in Israel.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of debate about that. We can talk about East Jerusalem and the fact that people that are, in theory, if you're living in East Jerusalem, you are supposed to be, by definition, an Israeli citizen. But 95% of the Arabs living in East Jerusalem are not Israeli citizens. They are considered to be,
Well, why are they not citizens?
one of the reasons is because they do not wish to be citizens, because they claim that East Jerusalem is part of the West Bank. It is part of the territory that is supposed to be the establishment for
So they
Palestinian
wish.
state.
But you might get these people here, the immigrants that are coming over, and they don't wish to be American citizens. Well, then hightail it home, buckaroo.
Well, the point is that that's not their. They are home. They are home. Israel has decided to annex East Jerusalem. We've talked about that before.
Once again, I think that this is indicative, if you go back.
Yeah.
All these warring bodies. Now, if you study, you tell me if this is true. I was told 80 years ago, they're still riding horseback in Jerusalem. And that does make sense, because in World War II, did you know that the Germans, 50% of their were not tanks and jeeps, they were horses. Did you know that? All of World War I was virtually horses. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So 80 years ago, the horses there, they've been warring for like this forever. The mistake is if there's a conflict, either you own it or you don't own it. If you won the war, take it. Tell the Palestinians bye-bye. I mean, but to leave a little faction there now grows up, and now they're trying to give away this and it's just trying to patch it up. And Yasser Farah, whatever his name was.
Yasser Arafat.
Yasser Arafat, easy for me to say. He was offered that land to have an independent Palestinian land. And they refused, like these people in the East Jerusalem, because they wouldn't. They said, no, we want the whole thing or nothing.
Well, the offers of this is often what I call a one-sided presentation of the refusal of the offer. If you analyze the offers carefully, you will realize that those offers did not represent a fair distribution.
What was Sadat doing with Arafat and Carter?
Let me mention a few examples of what are called some of the sticking points. That's very typical for now with the negotiations for hostage release. I'll get to that in a minute. But the sticking points back then, one of them that Yasser Arafat refused to accept, he had in his negotiation portfolio a requirement for the right to return of the exiled Palestinians. Now, keep in mind, at the time of 1947, many of these people fled or were forced out of Israeli-taken territory that was formerly where they lived, and they fled to Jordan or Syria or Lebanon or someplace like that. So they are now living in what's called refugee camps. In fact, Jordan has over 2 million Palestinians who are technically designated as refugees from the 1948 war. And they're still living in Jordan, but they're not Jordanian citizens.
Do they pay taxes?
I don't think so. I'm not sure what they do. They're being supported by UNRWA, by the way. UNRWA is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And UNRWA supports these people as refugees since 1948. UNRWA was set up before other parts of the UN were even established. It's one of the earliest parts of the UN. Now, Israel, by the way, is attempting to destroy UNRWA. It is claimed recently that UNRWA, which is the primary relief and aid distribution channel for Palestinians, not just in Gaza, but all over the refugee camps in Jordan and Libya and Syria, whatever. Israel is trying to destroy UNRWA. In fact, just last week, maybe this week, Israel said that it is no longer going to allow UNRWA to make deliveries of aid into North Gaza. Now, we have a major starvation going on, as you've heard.
This is the time to be doing that.
This is not the time to be saying, oh, we're not going to allow UNRWA.
Why would they do that?
Well, in my view, it is to promote famine. It is promoting the genocide of the Palestinians by cutting off the available means of supplying them with help. That's why they're doing it. And you said before, well, why don't they just get the Palestinians out? Well, one way of getting them out is to starve them out. Either they die or they flee to go and find food elsewhere.
There is great vitriol between these two groups. Great, grand vitriol. I mean, the Palestinians hate Jews. Matter of fact, there are stories that when the Hamas came over and brought these women out, and they killed families in front of the Palestinian people there, not Hamas, but the people. They were reveling in it, and they're jumping up and down and
Yes.
And they're happy that these little kids and moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas are being killed.
Yeah. Well, and we also saw on video when Israeli soldiers were blowing up hospitals and universities, literally setting charges underneath and watching a whole building collapse.
Okay.
They were shouting, Yahweh, Yahweh, and praise to Netanyahu. They were celebrating
even Jesus said they're going to come one day killing you, thinking they're doing my will.
Yeah. So
you can't blame this on God. This is on man-made.
It is.
Religions.
It is. And anyway, going back to this ceasefire agreement, let me get onto that for a minute, because it's an important development.
Yeah.
The U.S. had proposed its own ceasefire plan last week, and it did include what's called a direct link of hostage negotiation, release of hostages, to the ceasefire.
Of course, now we don't know how many hostages are alive because apparently they killed more than we realized.
Well, let's just focus on this issue of why the U.S. Plan was rejected.
Why?
China, Russia, and Algeria voted against the U.S. plan. Two of those.
What did it include that they didn't like?
That's what I'm going to explain. Two of those were permanent members, China and Russia. And they actually said, one of the main things that they said that they were against was the direct linkage of a hostage release to any ceasefire. They were saying, hey, we understand what Netanyahu can do. He can delay the hostage release negotiations and use that to keep the war going for another 3 months. And if we have this so-called American plan, the plan is no ceasefire until hostages are released. So if Netanyahu wants to keep the war going, he can do it by just not agreeing to the deal for the release of hostages. Okay? So that was part of the reason why the Chinese and Russians...
Does he have to commit to forever ceasefire or just a certain time?
No, this was even for, I don't know, with the U.S. plan, I think it was a six-week ceasefire.
Okay, so you're a former U.S. diplomat.
Right.
I met you years ago.
Yeah.
I liked you immediately. I liked the idea of diplomacy. I liked the idea of peace.
Yes.
I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray for the peace and the life of the Palestinian children and families. I pray for the peace of the Israeli children and families.
Right.
I tend to be from a light fare because I don't know. I'm an American boy.
Right.
I am a believer in Jesus, so I am for the Jews. Part of my family, through a pregnancy, is Jewish. So I tend to. I mean, if you had to call me, I might have called myself a Zionist, although I don't know all the ramifications of suggesting that I'm a Zionist. So I don't know what to do, but I'm going to ask you. You were a U.S. diplomat to Pakistan, South Korea, Spain, India, and Ukraine, which is pretty amazing. You lived in all those regions.
Right.
Me being a relational type person, I would have connected greatly. I mean, when I went to Africa, I meet someone from Zimbabwe now, I am connected. They are my brethren. When I went to Haiti, Como se va, that means Jesus loves you. Whenever I meet them here, we smile and we immediately have a bonding. Okay, so first of all, do you have a bonding? That's a personal question. I want to know if because I'm a relational kind of, there's the law and then there's relation.
Right.
And I believe my God is a God of relation above law, that mercy should override law. But anyway, and then the most important question, that's an important question, but this question is if you were king, you were ruler, you're dictator, supreme dictator,
Right.
what do we do?
Yeah. Well, that's a very broad question, and I don't want to distract our audience too much off track.
It would be flip for you to say something?
Well, my own... what I call, right now, I think Benjamin Netanyahu is kind of like King Herod. He is actually a king, but he's ruling under the control of Rome. In this case, Rome is America. The United States is the real power in the region.
We pull the strings because of economic blessings?
We pull the strings, but in reality, King Herod had influence inside the Roman regime, and he was pulling strings inside. The same thing is happening. The Israelis are pulling strings inside the United States, but we are the ones who are the ultimate power in the region of the Middle East. We have been providing Israel with $3.5 billion a year since the time of Obama. President Obama increased it to $3.5 billion a year in aid, 75% of which is military aid. And yet Israel has the audacity to say, how dare the United States interfere in our internal affairs when we say, maybe you shouldn't be using the weapons we're giving you to bomb Palestinians wantonly.
Well, maybe Hamas should not have attacked.
No, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me
too. You have a spirit of denial.
No.
And the denial is this. My babies were killed. My friend Howie Schaefer, his friend in college, Jewish. My friend Howie Schaefer's a Jew, lives in upstate New York.
Yeah.
His son Elijah. Eli had a friend who was there at that concert.
Yes.
Killed.
Yes.
Dead. All these beautiful people that were there in the name of peace. Murdered recklessly. With, just like these guys in Russia. Are we going to discuss Russia today, by the way? What happened in Russia?
We'll get to Russia, yeah.
That's
the
terrifying.
end. Yeah, but we don't want to distract
Some of
from
these
that.
soldiers had admitted they did it for money, they said. Why'd you do this for money?
All right, let's stay on the topic. You mentioned the...
I just want to give them
the beautiful,
idea we're coming up.
The beautiful, at this rave concert or something like that, I am sad and sympathetic with those people being caught in this event.
As we are the children of Palestine.
They were not actually the targets of this Hamas attack. They just happened to be there. That's part of the historical fact.
But the kibbutz was.
The kibbutzes are not innocent because the kibbutzes are tied directly to... The kibbutzes were set up there as a defense perimeter around the Gaza Strip. That's why the kibbutzes were there.
Are they military infused?
Yes, they are.
I stayed at a kibbutz.
I'm sorry.
But I don't remember there being a presence of military, but I don't even know where that kibbutz was.
Okay, the kibbutzes around there, for the most part, many of the kibbutzes are right next to military bases. In fact, part of the kibbutz Oz, was connected to an Israeli intelligence base, which had women operatives who were the intelligence operatives who were monitoring all the surveillance cameras looking out over Gaza. And about 20 or 30 of those women were captured by Hamas.
Now, you and I have lived a long enough life that
Yeah.
hopefully we've cultivated kindness and dignity towards others. But
Right.
there are young soldiers on both sides, I presume, and you have young Israeli soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, I saw that documentary where this beautiful Palestinian boy was just going through the garbage heap, and he was shot and now remains in a wheelchair for life.
Yeah.
He was just going through the garbage and emotion. Now, what the rest of that story is, I don't know. But we've heard stories like this.
Right.
Now, of course, Israel becomes the bad guys because they have the power. Remember, the good guy, the guy with the power, always seems to be the bad guy, and they're not necessarily the bad guy here. It's just, how does one respond when you come and you murder our children and our mothers and fathers and grandmas and grandpas? And then you can say, well, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Well, we didn't do that with the Germans. Now, you and I are also in agreement. What's the town that never should have been destroyed? It starts with a D.
Dresden.
Dresden. That's a horror. But anyway,
Yeah.
other than Dresden, which was probably not necessary, were we just supposed to send food to the starving Germans?
Yeah, well,
They started the damn fight, and we ended it.
Well, when you talk about sending food to the starving Germans, keep in mind that Israel is the occupier, and Gaza is an occupied territory, and therefore it is technically Israel's responsibility to supply food to the starving Palestinians in Gaza.
Okay, why?
It's not doing it. That's part of the occupation rule. If you're going to be the occupying power, you have to look after the people that you are occupying. You don't starve them to death.
Now,
if you're starving to
where's
death,
this rule?
it's part of the rules of war. The rules of war.
Isn't that crazy? They have rules of how you can kill or not kill and stuff. Is that wild?
It's not crazy. No, it's not
Well, it
crazy.
is crazy. There shouldn't be any. If they were to remove one thing from this world,
Yeah.
I would remove war. Is that what you would remove?
Well, I think I would remove. I would try to remove the causes of war.
Hate.
That's why diplomacy is aimed at trying to resolve conflicts.
Or find middle ground.
Find middle ground to resolve conflicts. That's it.
But it's not totally resolved if you just come to a point of compromise, because, it's kind of like if I do business with you
Yeah.
and I pay you cash,
Yeah.
you're comfortable, and then you buy from me. I sell cups and saucers, and you sell plates. I buy plates from you, buy cups and saucers from me. But when you do trade, and this comes to negotiation, well, I'm going to give you 10 cups and saucers for every 10 plates you give me.
Yeah.
But then I feel like this isn't fair because I'm giving you a little plate and a cup, but you're only giving me one plate for that. Is this a fair balance? And this is when people get, they come to negotiations, and somebody always feels they got the raw end of the deal.
Yeah, well, if we get back to this ceasefire agreement, there is a negotiation going on right now between the U.S. and Israel.
There is a negotiation going on. For what?
Well, first of all, the Israelis are angry that they claim the U.S. has abandoned them, that it no longer protects their back, because it engaged in what's called a abstaining from the vote. The recent vote, I described the first vote that was last week, was rejected by
So
China
by not
and Russia.
voting is a vote.
Well, by not voting, it allowed the remaining 14
Like
members.
people say, when you don't take an action, that is an action.
In some ways, it is, yes. Abstaining, because the U.S. has consistently applied a veto to any Security Council resolution against Israel, that Israel sees as against it and what it wants to do.
So we've laid down.
We've been protecting Israel through diplomacy by issuing vetoes in the Security Council over
No, they didn't do it.
ceasefire.
No.
And
This,
now
of
we
course-
didn't do it.
This, of course, is happening, if we're honest,
Yeah.
because it's an election year. I
don't think it's-
I think Biden's giving in to all these people
Well,
that are protesting.
I think Biden is responding to political pressure.
But then again, who am I? I don't know Biden's
Yeah.
heart.
Well,
Because we flip these things around. Somebody
Yeah.
goes, because he's evil and he wants it. Wait. You don't know that man's heart or motivation. We can imagine, but I don't know Biden's intentions
Well,
of his
let
heart.
me mention, by the way, Senator Schumer.
Who I do not like.
He is a Democrat. He is a Jew. He is a Senate leader. He has been a backer of Israel.
Oh, he has?
He's been a backer of Israel for 40 years. Yes, a
Where
strong
is he
backer.
a senator in New York?
Yeah, New York. Yeah, and New York is where if you want to look at the concentration of Jews,
I got a
New
phone
York
call
is
of a
the-
friend who just sold their property yesterday in upstate New York. He says, because there's a law up there now, if they have another COVID or they have another thing, they can take you from your home and put you in a...
All right, put you in an asylum. I know.
Not an asylum, whatever you call it. A camp.
Yeah.
That's the law in New York State.
Okay. All right.
And
Anyway.
look at this. They're holding Trump. Trump did business. Everybody exaggerated. My home, I say, is worth $10 million. They only give me $2 million. Well, because I wanted to inflate it, that's just part of business. If you're willing to pay it, hey, this cup is worth $10,000. If you're willing to pay it, it's the demand. So to come along, this idiotic, stupid, vitriolic district attorney
Rhett,
who is
Rhett,
mentally
Rhett,
inferior,
Rhett, let's stay on topic.
and that
Let's
judge
stay on topic.
who is a worm.
You can talk about that with some other guest. Let's stay on topic. We're doing foreign policy, very important foreign policy. This is just the fact that we mentioned New York and you get off on this stuff with the court. That's called rabbit hole.
When I was a boy and I know nothing
Rabbit
about
hole.
politics,
Yeah.
if you could go back in time, watch the video.
Yeah.
I said at 16 years of age, I said, this
Yeah.
is going to be the welfare state of the United
Yeah.
States one
Okay.
day. And years later, someone
All right.
said that's happened.
Since you brought up Trump, I want to release some breaking news, which is rather surprising. Trump is essentially condemning Israel for this attack going on in Gaza. Donald Trump, who is a big backer of Israel.
Yeah.
We know that.
Sure, with Jerusalem and the capital and the whole shebang.
He did the Jerusalem, which is, in my view, actually stepping over the line and violating international
Now,
law.
and you might say he's doing this because he's running for office, but we don't know his heart.
Yeah.
Maybe he's doing this because this is truly would have been. His son-in-law is Jewish.
What he said, yes, I know. And
So ostensibly his daughter became a Jew.
I know. So basically what he said is Israel made a very big mistake, and I want to call Israel out and say, don't do it. That's what he said.
Don't do what?
Don't do it. The invasion of Gaza, the continued destruction of Gaza. He said, this gives a very bad picture to the world. He said, the images, heavy-handed military response have sparked anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiment, which is correct. I agree with Donald Trump for once, okay? He says, I think Israel wanted to show it's big and tough, but you shouldn't be doing that kind of thing, okay? So what you've got is
I wonder what Donald would do or will do should he be reelected. If he can legally, see, we're in a bad place.
Yeah.
We're in a banana republic right now.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're not in a banana republic.
You have to open up your eyes. You want to.
Okay, Israel is claiming.
No. The way they've come after Trump is absolute ridiculousness. He did a business deal. All the banks are paid back. Everybody's happy. There is no crime.
Okay.
They're trying to, in some puffed up fashion, say he exaggerated the value of his properties.
Rhett, you have
Tough
not-
luck. Even the guy from the Shark Tank. What do they call him? Who's the bad guy?
Yeah.
The boy's not a bad guy. He's a good guy. I like him. But,
Yeah.
that guy, he said, this is done in New York State all the time. He says, I won't be doing any more business in New York State.
Okay. Banana republics, you have obviously not been in a banana republic, okay? If you want to know what a banana republic
I've
is.
been to.
A place like Panama under the
I've been to.
Noriega.
I've been to Mexico.
Mexico's not a banana
I've been
republic.
to
Mexico's not a banana republic.
Haiti a couple times.
Haiti is a banana republic. It's not even a republic. Haiti
What
is.
is that?
Haiti
Yeah,
is
what's
worse
going on
than
there?
Haiti is worse than a republic. It's not a republic
I love
at
the
all.
Haitian people, but as a Blanc, I can't go back there now because
It is a disintegrated anarchy. It's very similar to what you saw in Libya with the
now you like worldly
Civil
affairs.
War. Yeah.
Let's discuss what's going to happen in Haiti.
Okay, well, let's stay on this issue.
Have you been to Haiti?
I have not been to Haiti.
Okay, I've been to Haiti.
We
I
will.
helped feed the hungry there.
Okay.
I love the Haitian people.
Good.
They're hardworking people.
Yeah.
But when I was there, they said it's cheaper than to grow the corn there and then harvest the corn. It's cheaper to have a can of corn made in one of these big farms in America to be shipped to a family in Haiti.
Right.
So
So
it
they
was-
became aid dependent.
The good thing is this is falling apart. The good thing about that is when the dust settles, something new has to emerge. It could be a dictatorship. It could be democracy. Who's going to
Yeah.
step in as the keeper?
Yeah. Well,
Are we going to police Haiti now
yeah, I
and lose our boys and girls?
Yeah, I don't think so. The proposal at the moment is for something for the United Nations to do. And of course, this is the irony I find when you have Israel constantly, under Netanyahu, constantly condemning the United Nations, saying, oh, it's anti-Zionist, and they're a bunch of sympathizers with the Muslims, and everything they do is against Israel, and therefore the United Nations is a bunch of dirtbags.
But I will tell you this. If Netanyahu gives in to Trump right now,
Gives in to Trump. You mean
as
this
well as the
proposal
other,
of Trump?
that proposal of
Biden
Trump,
is
another.
also...
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
He will be ousted from office very quickly, and we may never have a man with that strength again.
You don't need a man with that strength.
You need to show strength.
Wrong. You do
Not
not.
wrong.
You need
Obama.
diplomacy.
Okay, let me give you for instance.
Diplomacy is not about Hercules.
Obama said to the president of Syria. Remember, he said, "Here's the line in the sand.
Yeah.
You do any more chemical weaponry against children and women, you're going to suffer the consequences." And he did it. And the president, and we did nothing to make him accountable. And a year later, with my eyes and my ears, I heard the president of Syria say, "Oh, I'm not worried about them. They don't have any. There's no. Yeah, in other words, they're saying there's no accountability there, and there wasn't.
Okay.
So if you don't have
Rhett, let me,
how
let me
many people would
interject
beat
here.
people
Wait a
up
minute.
and take their
Wait
money?
a minute.
that was
Let me
the-
interject in this. This whole thing about the chemical weapons in Syria, the reality is there was never any absolute proof that the Syrians used chemical weapons. Okay? That is still today under a debate. I investigated that very carefully.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
You're very emotional now.
Well,
You're yelling.
I'm trying
Okay.
to.
And I'm glad you're emotional.
The point is that you're going back to stuff that is years ago
Yeah.
and citing that without having full knowledge of what you're even talking about. As I said before, everybody blames Obama for not enforcing the red line. We're lucky he didn't enforce the red line. We would have been in a war with Syria.
Well, who's the guy that wrote all the president's
Did you
men?
want to go into war with Syria?
Who's,
Rhett, I'm asking
who's
you
the
a
guy that
question.
wrote all the president's
Yeah,
men?
Woodruff.
Well, I saw him in person here at the Riverside Theater, and he said, Obama shut down. We don't know why. He wouldn't act.
Well,
he was weak.
I know
he
why.
said that,
I
and
know
he's
why.
he's like the supreme Democrat. That
Okay,
guy, all the president's men.
I know why.
Why?
The same reason that Trump, of course, had backed off on a few cases.
Why did Obama?
Trump also backed off on a few cases
Okay.
because he did not want to take the Americans.
let's talk about Obama
He didn't want
now.
to take the Americans into war.
Right.
If Obama had taken us into a war in Syria, it could have been a big, ugly, bloody war, just like we fought in Iraq. Okay? The war machine would be very happy.
You don't need to yell.
The war
Listen.
machine would be very happy with that. They would all be making lots of money. But the rest of the American people, our boys would be dying in Syria. Okay? We have troops in Syria today.
And you know, some of the people on this very barrier island
Yeah.
are making money off of this war.
Well-
and isn't that a shame?
It-
This guy that owned the restaurant over here, he told me he has contracts with the government. We, the normal people, don't know this. I've only seen a little peek under the door, folks. I'm a nobody. I'm a shoeshine boy from Poughkeepsie, New York. And I can tell you this, there's people that go, Hud, I make this bomb here, and I just sold 10 million of them to the United States. I'm rich for the rest of my life, boy. I'm going to build that big $10 million mansion out in California.
Well, let me say this.
There are people that have sold us out,
Yeah,
and they know it, and they won't even admit it to themselves.
I don't want to say that everyone who makes weapons for America is selling us out. That's not correct. There are lots of patriotic Americans that are engaged in the arms industry.
But greed has run amok. Look at that airline company with its president's going to come down.
Boeing, yeah, I know.
Look at it, and even the people in there, even the president said he saw the fragrance, he saw the telltale signs. They were caring more about profit than they were about safety.
And we certainly have to watch out for what I call getting into wars to make the arms industry profitable. That's not the right approach. We need an arms industry. We need aircraft carriers. We need jet airplanes.
Can you imagine if I did a $100 million deal one time?
Yeah.
And then I'm living up on the barrier island knowing the remainder of my life that is ill-gotten gain.
Well,
I was once offered tens of thousands of dollars to market cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they had cut the deal. I cut the deal with, what's the name? Whatever they are. Reynolds, not Reynolds, who is it? But anyway, so I turned it down. Years later, I go, thank God I didn't accept that money. And I never even made that much money in a year back then.
Yeah.
Because I said, if I turn one person
you would
onto
have killed
cigarettes.
all those people. Yeah.
Well, not kill all those people, but if I suggested making anybody smoke cigarettes, it's evil, it's blood money.
Right.
And I didn't do it. You know what? I get to sleep at night, and maybe my Father in heaven is pleased with me, because I think, boy, wouldn't it be great if I could sell iPhones to the U.S. government? Yeah. One order, I'm set for life. Somebody just told me today he got an order. What was it for? This fellow sold an order to the airplane company up here. Thousands of this product will be done every month that this guy's going to supply.
Right.
Do you know what that makes him?
Yeah.
A pretty well-to-do guy.
Okay, let's get back to this issue of...
It's hard not to be tempted, folks.
Let's go back to this issue of the ceasefire. As I said, the latest ceasefire, which passed Monday, just a couple
Trump
days
is
ago.
certainly accelerating that because he's a friend of Israel.
The latest ceasefire
What's going to happen now?
Has not linked the call for a ceasefire to the release of hostages. That, by the way, the hostage deal is falling apart. The talks, the Israelis have pulled their negotiators out of Doha for about the second or third time. So it's not going well.
Trump just got a whole load of votes.
Okay.
Because Biden's in power, could have done something, didn't do something. Trump has no power right now, but he said if he was in office, he agrees that they should cease fire. A lot of people are going to step up and say, well, I don't like him. He's got a big mouth, but he's a man of peace. I'm in.
Keep in mind that this is an interesting point you're making because the Biden administration did hold off their vote. They did not vote for the ceasefire, but they abstained. That is considered sort of a half step. And as I said before...
and I agreed, not making a decision is a decision.
It is a decision because it allowed the rest of the Security Council to reach a conclusion. Now, you ask an interesting question, which is, so they reached a decision for a ceasefire during Ramadan. Ramadan ends in 2 weeks. So it's a 2-week ceasefire. And...
Oh, is there one going on now?
There's supposed to, the Security Council has announced a ceasefire is mandatory for Ramadan.
Now, what is Ramadan?
Ramadan is a religious time when the Muslims...
Atonement?
I guess so. I don't know the religious significance. I just know that they don't eat. They don't eat during the day.
Hey, Siri, what is Ramadan? Is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer, and reflection and community.
Yeah, okay. So
yes, she's going to tell me a little more. A commemoration of Muhammad's first revelation.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's when, God apparently gave Muhammad the book of, the holy book of Quran by revelation.
One sighting of the
by
crescent
revelation.
moon to the next.
Yeah, by revelation. Anyway, so in response to this abstaining, as I said, Netanyahu's angry. So he has announced that he's canceling the trip of his security advisor, Strategic Affairs Minister,
to the-
Ron Dermer. Ron Dermer was supposed to be coming to the United States to discuss the plans for the invasion of Rafah. Netanyahu says, we're going to invade Rafah. That's where the Hamas are hiding out. And there are also 1.5 million refugees hiding out there. Okay, and Israel has no plan to get those refugees out of the way.
What a hard place to be. He wants to annihilate so they can't come back, to take care of the cancer. But at the same time, if he doesn't, now you got Trump saying this. I mean, if he doesn't do it, he could
kills the patient.
He could kill the patient, but he will go down in history like a Hitler.
A pariah and a Hitler, exactly. And
yet he's a man of strength and character.
And
He
the
wanted to do the right thing to protect his people.
well, the starvation policy, I talked about that last week and the week before. He has a starvation policy that mimics that of Adolf Hitler. That's what Hitler did in World War II. He had an intentional plan called the Hunger Plan, which was to starve Jews and Slavs in Eastern Europe. And he killed maybe 4 million through the Hunger Plan. Okay? Now, Israel is doing that right now in Gaza, and we in America have been dropping airlift food supplies.
but
You've seen that.
It's just a little.
It's horrible.
It's
It's
a
horrible.
speck.
Israel should immediately stop the assault on Gaza, and food supplies need to come in so that people are not starving literally to death. You've got every day you've got young children dying of malnutrition in Gaza, especially
Okay.
in North Gaza. And as I said, let me mention this before we move on. Let me mention this as an adding insult matter. On Sunday, Israel announced that they were going to ban UNRWA, that's the United Nations Relief, from entering North Gaza while the starvation is going on. And this was about the very time that our Secretary of State was arriving in Blinken was arriving in Israel. So as Israel welcomes Blinken by saying, oh, we're banning the food supplies that are going to be given to northern Gaza, we're going to accelerate the starvation as you arrive in our country.
Now, one thing, you do a lot of research for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wonder if you subject yourself to opposing views. Because I don't mind opposing views. You know why? Because I'm a strong man. If you can knock me off my pedestal, then I deserve to be knocked off. But if you cannot refute what I'm saying, it makes my stance even that much more stronger.
Right.
Do you subject yourself to opposing views on these things? Because
Yes.
I know you said that all I listen to is CNN and MSNBC,
Yeah.
I mean, they're blatantly.
Well, let me, as a way of seeing the opposing view, I'm not.
I don't listen to them, and I
right.
don't listen to Fox, by the way, just so you know.
I'm going to
I don't listen to either one
I'm
of
going to
them.
listen to Ron Dermer.
Anyway.
Ron Dermer is the guy coming over, or at least he was supposed to be coming over. But last Thursday,
Yes.
before he was getting ready to come over here to visit the United States to talk about the invasion of Rafah,
Yeah.
he made a statement. He posted a statement. He said, the Rafah operation is going to happen even if Israel has to fight it alone, even if the entire world turns on Israel, including the United States. That's what he said. And he said, we're going to finish the job, and if anybody doesn't understand that this is existential for Jews, so he's basically saying that he and Netanyahu are going to finish the job and invade Rafah. If the rest of the world doesn't like it, to hell with them. Okay? Now, that's the other side, and that's right out of his mouth. So I do hear the other side, but I don't like what I hear. When I hear him say, I don't give a damn about the rest of the world, Israel will do it by itself, Israel will wipe out every Hamas member and kill all the Gazans in the process. Too bad. That's what he's saying. I'm sorry, but that's hearing the other side, Rhett.
Well, that's hearing him on the other side.
He's the
Hearing
spokesperson.
The motivation, yeah. But
He's the
also
national
what-
security advisor.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
But are you subjecting yourself to opposing views with everything?
Well, I try to.
Not just their inflammatory speech, like you're saying he's making, but what is the genesis of their anger?
Well, the Israelis have what's called a victimhood mentality, which is understandable because they have been persecuted for thousand years.
I guess
Almost.
hundreds of thousands.
Well,
no.
1,800 years since they were thrown
1800.
out of Rome. They've been on the run. They've been living as wandering
Well,
Jews.
even before that, before Egypt, right?
Well, they had some wars going on between themselves, inner Jewish wars. That's how you had Judea and Samaria. They were separate kingdoms. Okay, and they were fighting against each other.
Of course.
And they predicted that they would cause the collapse of the Jewish state by having divided and so forth. So,
The Bible says it's to a man's honor to
Yeah.
avoid a conflict.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to say it's...
What is the matter with me? Aren't you disenchanted?
I'm going to say the Middle East seems to bring it out in people more than other areas. You know, we can. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the sun or lack of water or something.
Goofy Texas is offering the Jews to come there.
Hey, they'll make the desert bloom.
I think that Texas may. What do you call when can Texas abdicate? I mean, can they cut themselves? What do you call it when a state leaves the union?
Yeah, that's secede from the union.
Secede. Can they do that?
Secede. Well,
Are there
in
laws
theory,
against that, or
there are laws against it.
would that be a proclamation of another civil war?
It could. On the other hand, you know, if you wanted to be really broad-minded about this, you could keep in mind, I love Jews, but I do not think that they're in their proper place in the middle of that Arab-populated region called the Middle East. I think that they would be much better off if they were, there are only 7 million of them. We have more than 7 million already in the United States. Bring them all over here. Let them live in Texas. If they want to, they can call it the Lone Star of Texas, David State. You know, that would be an ideal
ain't
scenario.
gonna happen.
Well, it may not, but it shouldn't have happened that the Israelis decided to set up their camp in the middle of that area called Palestine. That is driven by what's called religious theology as opposed to political reality. And they invited themselves a fight when they came in there, when they set up their camp and said, "We're going to get off my land. This is the Torah says is mine." That invites a fight, and they have been fighting ever since. And then they say, "Why do everybody hate me?" Well, it's because they weren't welcome there to begin with. Why don't they go somewhere?
We already heard your angle. We're not going to go back over that.
Yeah, we're not going to
yet.
get over that.
Now,
let's go to the next.
Well, hold on a second here. Israel land grab. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, let's do that one.
No. We've got enough of Israel. We already did this.
Oh, no. Well, we haven't done Israel.
I want to know about the raid in Moscow.
Okay, well, we'll do raid in Moscow next. That's all right.
You want to take a break?
Let's take a break, and then we'll come back
We're
and do the
going to
raid.
take a break. We're talking with former U.S. diplomat David Hunter, who can't wait to get out of his seat to go get some more coffee to refuel his anger.
No, I have no anger.
Well,
I have enthusiasm.
That means entheism. That means entheism. That means God within, bubbling over. We'll be right back.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's good.
Hi, I'm a golf enthusiast, and I love Big Shots Golf on US 1, next to Advanced Eye Care. I was at Big Shots recently and had a great time playing a virtual 18-hole golf course. Big Shots also serves really good food. The mini cheeseburgers are my favorite. I love the ice cream, too. For a fun time, bring your friends and family to Big Shots Golf on US 1.
Indian River County, roll with us, recycle.
It's hard to recycle, right? Pizza boxes, milk cartons, dog food bags, frozen food boxes, to-go cups and lids. Where do they all go? No worries, there's an app for that. Download the Carter's Corner app on your mobile device at Google Play or the Apple App Store, or visit indianriver.gov to find out if an item is recyclable in your blue cart or not. So eliminate confusion at the cart and recycle right with the Carter's Corner app.
The Rhett Palmer broadcast is brought to you by Complete Electric Complete Alarm. Get your generator checked now before the next hurricane strikes. Call the good folks at Complete Electric Complete Alarm. You'll be safe and sound when the next hurricane strikes. Call Complete Electric Complete Alarm.
Hi, I'm Renee Fiore. I own Tropical Restoration Services. We do water damage, mold damage, fire damage. You have a toilet overflows. We also do leak detection to find where the source is at 217-7422. That's the phone number for Tropical Restoration Services. So call me direct, Renee Fiore, Tropical Restoration, 772-217-7422. We will find the source of your problem and fix it.
The Rhett Palmer broadcast is brought to you by Complete Electric Complete Alarm. Get your generator checked now before the next hurricane strikes. Call the good folks at Complete Electric Complete Alarm. You'll be safe and sound when the next hurricane strikes. Call Complete Electric Complete Alarm.
The Minutemen answered the call during the American Revolution. Now, Minuteman Press answers the call with custom print and design services designed to promote your business like nobody's business. They lead the charge, but never overcharge for great design, print, and promotional materials. Minuteman Press in Vero Beach and now in Port St. Lucie, ready to answer the call. Google Minuteman Press or visit pslminutemanpress.com.
They say you sleep a third of your life. So why is shopping for a mattress so important? There's a mattress store on every corner. But when you visit the Mattress Market store, you'll find Steve and his family, in business for 35 years, waiting to help you find the best mattress at the best price to give you the best night's sleep. All the major brands: Serta Perfect Sleeper, Simmons Beauty Rest, Posh and Lavish, Urban Loft Ice, Pure Latex Bliss, I Love My Pillow, Kingsdown, Biscayne Bedding, and many more. US 1 right next to Waves, Mattress Market in Vero Beach, for a good night's sleep and a great deal. Mattress Market.
I know you want to have a beautiful smile. Well, an examination, radiographs, a healthy cleaning would normally be well over $200. Gosh. Right now, for $79, you can call Plains Dental Arts, 231-6004. It's all included for $79. The examination, the radiographs, the healthy cleaning. Okay, call Plains Dental Arts. Make your appointment right now, 772-231-6004. Takes care of gingivitis, takes care of halitosis, gives you a great healthy smile. You get a thorough examination. Plains Dental Arts, just south of the Village Beach Market on A1A. Again, $79 for the examination, radiographs, healthy cleaning, 231-6004. Call now, 772-231-6004.
Indian River County. Roll with us, recycle.
It's hard to recycle, right? Pizza boxes, milk cartons, dog food bags, frozen food boxes, to-go cups and lids. Where do they all go? No worries, there's an app for that. Download the Carter's Corner app on your mobile device at Google Play or the Apple App Store, or visit indianriver.gov to find out if an item is recyclable in your blue cart or not. So eliminate confusion at the cart and recycle right with the Carter's Corner app.
And we are officially back. How you doing, Noah? Noah's behind the glass today. Can you hear us in there or not really? You can. Okay. Well, nice to see you, Noah. Thanks for coming in. And we have David Hunter, former U.S. diplomat to Spain, Portugal?
Ukraine.
No. Ukraine, South Korea. Don't jump now. India. Uzbekistan, no, Pakistan.
Next door, yeah, one of the stands, yeah. Actually, we're going to talk about stands now. That's interesting.
I mean, so on the question I asked at the beginning of the show an hour and a half earlier, about an hour and a half ago, relationally, I get connected to people emotionally. I'm that kind of a guy. I'm an artist. Did you connect? You know, because you're more of an intellect. You're a what's the word? Someone who goes to school.
Scholar.
A scholar, yeah. And so, are you more Can you be a scholar and what's the word? Not an ascetic. What's the word I'm looking for when people like to go to school and they get degrees and stuff?
Academic.
Like Ukraine for how long? 2 years?
Yeah, and I got made good friends with my staff who were younger Ukrainians. I've said this before.
Oh.
The younger Ukrainians, they were 20 years younger than I was, and they were all of this generation, what I call the post-Soviet Union generation.
Yeah.
They had been little children when Ukraine was still part of the Soviet Union, but by the time they were in their teens and 20s, the Soviet Union had collapsed, so they aspired to become part of Europe, and they saw Poland and the Czech Republic and others as role models for what they could become.
So they must be aghast at this invasion.
Well, you're talking about this recent attack.
Yeah, from Russia.
Well, the attack of Russia, yeah. See, Russia has always been sort of like the overlord for these other Soviet satellite states. And the Russians...
Just like Israel is a satellite to the U.S.
I wouldn't say it's comparable, because in this case...
Do we have any satellites that are comparable?
Puerto Rico would be an example.
I think Puerto Rico became a state.
No, Puerto Rico's territory.
You're sure?
Yes, and same with Guam is a territory. And before Hawaii became a state, it was a territory. Okay, so the difference is that with a country like Israel, even though we support them enormously, they do not rely on us. It's almost like we're relying on them. You know, they have more power in certain areas than we do, and that's kind of ironic. But that's not the when I say someone's an overlord, that's like, you know, a dictator and his satellites, his colonies. In fact, the Russians used to call these areas outside of Russia itself satellites. That was the term. Like, you know, I'm the planet and there's a little thing flying around me. That's the satellite. And I put you there and I can take you down if I want to. That's the concept of a control over a satellite. This
goes way back, though. Feudal lords. And,
yeah, it does.
You can live on my land, but I want part of your harvest.
Yeah, and I want your first daughter. You know, all of this stuff. Yeah, it goes back to domination in an unfair, non-democratic system. As I've said before, Putin does not want democracy. He went through this mock election last week, which is a joke that showed him to have 87% of the vote. He could have dialed it any place he wanted. It's a joke. Now, you mentioned, though, this question of ISIS attacking the stage in Moscow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's.
Okay. ISIS attack on Moses Caracas stage.
Yeah.
This week, a branch of ISIS called ISIS-K sent 4 gunmen to attack a large concert in Moscow, killing over 100 Russian civilians, 140, I think, or something. What is ISIS-K, and why did they attack Russia? Now, they caught all those. They say they caught them all. The one guy said, "Why are you doing this?" And I saw him. He said, "I did it for money." So, I mean, somebody comes up and says, "I'm going to give you $100,000. Go kill people." But to have the lack of character, you're willing to murder totally innocent people for $100,000 or $200,000, whatever they're being paid.
$5,000 is what it was. But keep in mind, in a lot of places in the world, you can hire a contract assassin for like $100 in Nigeria or some places like that. You know, life is cheap, and $100.
They say there are places you can go around here and pay $500 and.
Well, maybe so. I assume that
how terrible.
It is terrible. But let me go back to this and say we don't know the facts yet, and may never know the facts about why this attack happened. Putin has suggested
at first.
He suggested at first that it might have had something to do with the Ukraine.
But he's pulled back on that now.
And now he is saying it appears to be an Islamist group. ISIS-K is a branch of ISIS. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Now, ISIS, I think the audience out there probably knows, and you know who ISIS is. We fought ISIS in Mosul. Remember that? We had the war against ISIS. ISIS was beheading people.
Was Trump partially responsible for getting rid of ISIS?
No, the ISIS was done before Trump was there.
Okay. Who was the next group that he helped eliminate? I forget their name.
Yeah, that was, well...
Maybe it's good we forget their name.
Yeah.
Notice they're doing these things where people are coming out and attacking now. They're not giving them any press. They're not showing the pictures, and they're not mentioning their names. There's no more glory in going and killing 20 people. They're not going to put it on the news.
Right.
Good for them, right?
Well, there's some interesting aspects of this attack on the Crocus stage. The Crocus stage is owned by the Crocus Group.
Were you ever there before?
No, I haven't. But the Crocus Group is owned by the billionaire named Aris Agaralov. Aris Agaralov. Now, August Agadalov is, believe it or not, the one who backed Trump hosting Miss Universe in 2013 in Moscow. And the Miss Universe pageant took place at that very location where this strike has occurred.
Oh, boy.
Okay? Now, if you look at the Agadalovs, a Senate intelligence report, the Select Committee on Intelligence, issued in I think it was in 2020, a report about the Agadalovs. And they said the Agadalovs have significant ties, this is a direct quote, significant ties to Russian organized crime, have been closely affiliated with individuals involved in murder, prostitution, weapons trafficking, kidnapping, extortion, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, and other criminal enterprises. That's the direct quote from the Senate report, the Senate intelligence report on the Agadalovs.
So you think there's some reason they were attacked by ISIS, this particular place?
It could be that that this was something related to some criminal group that was trying to destroy Agadalov and his Crocus building.
Well, it was how many does it seat? It looked like it seated like 5,000, 10,000.
It's a huge...
Now, I've been in that business.
Yeah.
You add those ticket sales add up really quick. You're talking enormous amounts of money.
So,
this is why they can pay certain people $1 million a night. Now, I want to tell you something, though. Now, what are we going to have at that theater? They're going to have paid armed guards. Guess where I went last Friday night? I went to synagogue down in
Palm Beach?
No,
Port
St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie.
They had armed guards?
I couldn't believe it. And they handed something out that would help us.
Yeah.
It was not lethal, but anyway, I don't want to give it away.
I know.
But I couldn't believe it. There's a man there. I'm talking to him, one of the guys, and they had the outfit on with the gun and everything.
Right.
I got inside. I almost started weeping because the Jews had a piano player, an old guy playing the piano. No, that was a lady playing the piano, and he was playing the cello. And it was kind of like the Steven Spielberg music you'd hear in one of those movies. And I was thinking, these crimes, can you imagine being fearful now if you're a Jewish student on a campus?
Unfortunately, the rise of anti-Semitism because of this war in Gaza.
It's not just because of this war.
Trump said it himself. He said it himself in his own words.
But it was sleeping. He
said this is a big mistake, and he said it's a bad picture for the world, and that this is. He actually is saying that this is bad public relations for Israel. That's what he's saying. He isn't saying that you shouldn't do it. He's saying that it shouldn't be done in that manner so openly. If you want to send secret hit squads in to kill Hamas, go ahead and do it. But don't sit
why
there.
Not do that? Why not just send food, feed all these people, let them get back to normal, and send in your hit squads?
Yeah, that's exactly.
And take these guys out like we took Osama bin Laden out.
Instead of blowing the whole place to smithereens. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point of that?
Well, the only explanation I have is
they want to kill Palestinians.
They want to get the Palestinians out of that whole area and take it over for themselves. As I said before.
But they just gave it up a few years ago.
Well, as I said before, there are people within the Israeli government that specifically say that they want to take over Gaza and make it into a paradise for Israeli settlers. That's what they want. They want to retake the Gaza. That's a direct statement that a number of Israeli government officials have said. They actually, one of them said, this is the director of the National Security Committee of the Israeli Knesset. That's like the Congress. The head of the Israeli Committee of the National Congress, his name is Zviki Vogel, and he said that Palestine must be made to pay the price for October 7th by not having any land in Gaza. So in other words, he's saying, I'm sorry, you attacked us with this 1,200 people that you killed.
So we're getting rid of the threat.
So we're going to get rid of the whole...
The threat.
Not the threat. We're going to take...
It is the threat.
No, it's not. It's a punishment. It's the punishment of not having any land in Gaza.
I don't think it's punishment.
He said, pay the price by not having land in Gaza. He didn't say, we take Gaza to protect ourselves from the threat. He didn't say that. He said...
Who is this talking?
This is the National Security Committee head for the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli Congress. His name is Mr. Vogel. And he said that a couple of days ago.
Vogel is vocal.
Vogel. Zviki Vogel.
Vogel is vocal.
Okay, so he said...
Vogel.
He said that. So as I said before, there are attempts by the Israelis to drive the Palestinians off of the entire occupied territories. At the same time that Mr. Blinken was arriving, the Secretary of State was arriving, the finance minister, the hard right settler Zionist finance minister, Mr. Benzel Smotrich, he announced that Israel was seizing almost 4 square miles of Palestinian territory in the West Bank. That was as Blinken was getting off of the airplane. Smotrich welcomes him by saying, oh, by the way, we're just taking 4 miles of Palestinian territory.
So do you think this humiliates him?
Yes, it does. And in fact, Peace Now, which is a Jewish group that promotes peace in Israel and with the Palestinians, they said the timing of the announcement was a provocation.
Provocation?
Provocation.
Of what? To do what?
To embarrass Blinken, to show that he's humiliated.
Blinken's been being nice to them. Why would they do that?
That's exactly the point. Mr. Smotrich is saying, I don't give a damn, Mr. Blinken, with you and your two-state solution. And actually Netanyahu is saying the same thing. He's saying, you take your two-state solution and shove it back to Washington. We're not going to accept your proposal. We're the boss here in Israel, and we don't want a two-state solution.
They're feeling their oats.
I would say more than feeling their oats. They're strutting. They're strutting like the big dog.
Maybe, I don't know.
And
this gets into the area of judging hearts.
Okay.
We don't know.
Yeah, I know, but if you look at it, as they said, the judgment was...
You know, you might think I'm strutting about, but if they had come in and killed my little girl,
if I got off
I'm
the
going to kill every damn one of the Hamas that I possibly can and lay down my life.
If I got off the airplane with my bag attempting to negotiate a peace deal with the Israelis and the Palestinians...
What are you saying in there?
Negotiate.
Circles and circles, you don't listen.
Yeah.
And the circles, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down.
All right. So,
if I sing any more of that song...
Okay, well, anyway, let's get off Israel.
Take us
let's
off
get off Israel
YouTube
and go
or
back to
Facebook
Moscow.
anyway.
Let's go back to Moscow because...
Let's go back to Moscow. I've been there once. I do not want to go back to Moscow.
Yeah, now ISIS-K, it's interesting because ISIS-K is a group that was originally based in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan, keep this in mind, his name is Hafez Saeed. And Hafez
How
Saeed,
do you know how to pronounce all these names?
He ended up...
Do you need any help doing that, or do you have a way?
No, that's easy. That's easy.
It is?
Yeah.
Hafez
Saeed.
Saeed.
Yeah. He was a member of what's
I should
called...
compliment you. You're amazing how you do that every week.
Yeah, thank you. He was a member of what's called the TTP, which is the Pakistan Taliban Party. Taliban of Pakistan. Taliban of Pakistan is not like the Taliban of Afghanistan. Taliban of Pakistan wants to overthrow the Pakistan government and create a caliphate in Pakistan.
And a caliphate is
a Islamic republic, not a republic.
The severity of women having to wear...
Yeah, it's not. They call it an Islamic republic.
If you're homosexual, they will kill you.
Yeah, it's extremism.
Can you believe that there were homosexuals protesting in America for the Palestinians? When they went there, they threw them off a building.
The Palestinians... Estupida is what you demonstrate when you don't distinguish Palestinians and even Hamas from the ISIS. As I said before, ISIS would throw you off a building if you're homosexual. They won't do that. In the case of Palestinians, they don't execute homosexuals, okay? And they tolerate...
It's the Muslims, right? No?
They're Muslims, but they don't execute... Not all Muslims...
Isn't homosexuality still illegal in Russia? I think it is.
I don't know. I'm not sure of that aspect of... But
or they're just quietly ignoring the whole situation.
Let's get back to the Crocus group and the attack and what happened and why it happened.
Terrifying.
Okay? Now, I already explained that Agarolovs, who own the Crocus group, which owns that building, they are a bunch of mafiosos. Even though they were friends of Donald Trump, they are known to be mafiosos. The Senate Intelligence Committee confirmed they were involved in weapons trafficking, prostitution, murder, kidnapping, extortion, you name it. Bad guys.
Doesn't anybody make someone money and then just go relax by the beach?
Okay, stop changing the subject.
Everybody wants more.
Okay, now the question is why would ISIS-K, which is based out of Pakistan, and it's also in Afghanistan, but it's fighting with the Taliban. They're not friends with the Taliban. They're enemies of the Taliban. Why
Who's
would
the enemies with the Taliban?
ISIS-K?
Oh my God!
ISIS-K.
There's even infighting there.
There's
the bad
infighting.
guys are fighting with the bad guys.
They are. Yes, they are.
Oh, my
exactly.
word.
So the ISIS-K, they're trying to essentially establish themselves what I call street creed, meaning they want to show themselves as being a powerful Islamic extremist group, just like Al Qaeda used to be with Bin Laden. So ISIS-K has started branching out and launching attacks around the world. Okay, and so it's possible, and most of the ISIS-K, by the way, even though they're based in Afghanistan, they're not Afghans. They're Tajiks and Uzbeks. Now, those are if you get your map out, you'll see that Tajikistan and Uzbekistan are in Central Asia. Okay? Now, why would a bunch of Tajiks from ISIS decide they want to attack Russia? If this was actually aimed at Russia instead of just a personal attack on Agaralov and his mafiosa. Let's assume this was politically motivated. Why would the Tajiks? Well, one reason is because Vladimir Putin had supported the Syrian government when Syria was fighting against ISIS. And Russia helped the Syrians kill a bunch of ISIS. And so...
But this isn't going to hurt Putin.
Well...
You killed beautiful, innocent families and
right.
moms and dads and kids. It doesn't hurt Putin.
Well, you're assuming that there's a clear logic and a logic to the actions that these terrorists take. The Tajiks themselves, they have been under the rule of a President Rahmon since the 1990s. In 1992, President Rahmon of Tajikistan, he was elected chairman of the Supreme Soviet. Now, you've heard of that. The Supreme Soviet, that was back in the USSR days, right? Supreme Soviet. After Tajikistan became independent, he remained the president, and he was reelected in 94, 99, 2006, 2013, and 2020.
Same thing that Putin's doing.
Same thing Putin's doing. Yeah, you start seeing it.
Yeah.
Putin
put his enemies in jail just like the Democrats want to put Trump in jail.
He is Mr. Rahmon.
Evil.
Mr. Rahmon, the president of Tajikistan, is the dictator for life. Since the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union to today, he is still the president. Been there forever.
FDR was for, 16 years?
Well, that's different. Don't confuse that. The reality is that there are probably many Tajiks who do not like the continuation of the Soviet dictatorship for the last 40 years with one guy as the El Jefe, the chief. And therefore, these Tajiks have been joining this radical group as a way to fight again. And Putin, of course, is a friend of Mr. Rahmon. Putin's been there forever. Rahmon's been there forever. Hey, they're good buds. They like each other. So this could be an attempt to attack Russia for its continued support for the Rahmon government in Tajikistan. That's another possible motive for why they did it. It would make sense. Now, Russia has a real problem because there are over 1.6 million Tajiks living in Russia. All these people from Tajikistan. It's not a big country. That is one of the main 1.6 million of Tajiks are a lot. They drive taxis. They're working in agriculture, you name it. In fact, they just said that a lot of taxi drivers now, they're checking whether they're Tajiks and they refuse to ride in the car if it's a Tajik that's driving the car.
Why?
Because they're fearful that he might be a terrorist after this attack. So what's happening now is...
It hurt a lot of innocent people.
So what now the Russians are proposing is to either exile the Tajiks, send them all back to Tajikistan, the 1.6 million, or, worse than that, kill them.
All of them?
Yeah, that's what
You could be riding a cab and be totally innocent, and they're just going to pull you in and...
Well, the point is they're fearful. It's very similar to Israel being fearful of Palestinians now. They think, the Palestinians are trying to kill me. They'll cut my throat. So
people will do anything when they're in fear or they're hungry.
Yeah. So the fear, the concept of the fear in Russia is that these Tajiks are in our country, and they don't even need a visa to come. That's the interesting point. Tajikistan is visa-free entry into Russia. So if there are infiltrating terrorists in the Tajik community, which they have motivation for doing so because Russia's been backing their dictator, Mr. Ramon. So they might have further interest in causing disruption inside Russia. And Russia, this of course is a black eye for Putin because Putin claims he has the security state. He's keeping the Russians safe. And in reality, they walked right into the concert hall with their weapons and started shooting. There was not even an armed guard in the Crocus building. So, it was a terrible embarrassment for Putin as the leader of a so-called police state to have this happen.
How did they manage to capture them all so quickly? Some in the woods, they said.
They didn't capture them that quickly. They were about 300 miles from the border of Ukraine, allegedly. So they managed to get in a car. All of them survived the assault in the Crocus group. No police got there in time to kill them at the grounds. Like our police often kill terrorists when they're at a group.
Yeah.
They managed to kill all these people at the Crocus, 180, you said? I don't know.
140.
140. And then they got away. So they killed and got away, and no police had shown up in the meantime to stop them. So that's, again, a embarrassment. The other thing about Tajiks is that there are about 100,000 Tajiks living in Pakistan, and most of those were previously living in Afghanistan. So you have Tajiks floating around, and these are all ripe for recruitment. Let's put it that way. I'm sure the Pakistanis are very concerned that some of those Tajiks living in Pakistan, 100,000 of them, some of them might be ISIS. So it's going to make the situation more complicated in that whole Central Asia
All right.
area.
Now, is there one final thing you want to discuss before we say toodaloo? Because we are looking at almost 2 hours we've been doing this.
Yeah, okay. Well, we got an hour and a half, but yeah, we can do
No, we started at right at
10:30.
Yeah.
10:30,
And it's
yeah.
now almost noon.
Yeah, so let's go to this this question of the land grab.
Israel land grab in Palestine, occupied territory, ? Currently, Israel just approved 300 new settlements in the West Bank and annexed 2,000 acres of land in Palestine's Jordan Valley area. Now, what does that mean, annexed?
Claims it's Israeli land. And
This was done while U.S. Secretary of State Blinken was in Israel trying to resolve the current Gaza. This is what you said. Is this intentionally snubbing of a U.S. official designed to humiliate him? If so,
yeah.
why?
Now, let's keep in mind this 2,000 acres of land that was taken. This is the largest single land grab or land seizure since the 1993 Oslo
So is
Accords.
it desert or?
No, it's not desert. No, it's not desert. This is
Well,
land.
it's Jordanian. You said
No.
it's Jordanian land.
No, it's not Jordanian land. All of the territory of the West Bank was under Jordan at one point. After the
So where is this land?
in the West Bank, it's in the West Bank. It's actually
In Gaza?
no. Gaza is not the West
They're
Bank.
not connected.
Gaza is not connected to the West Bank. Gaza is this little stretch over on the ocean,
Yeah.
and the West Bank is over on the other side of Israel, over on the east side of Israel. Okay, that long stretch. It's called Judea and Samaria in ancient times. The West Bank area was, and what they did is they seized an area right in the middle of the West Bank, which essentially that land that they've taken cuts the West Bank in two. So now you have Northwest Bank and Southwest Bank, and you can't get from one to the other by the annexation. And this essentially, by this annexation, Mr. Smotrich did, it will make it impossible to achieve a two-state solution if that annexation is allowed to occur. So, but of course that's exactly what Smotrich is trying to do. He's trying to destroy the possibility of creating a united Palestine. If you can break it up into little islands here and islands there, then there's no way they can ever become a united country. Okay, you can't have a bunch of little islands like Swiss cheese and say, oh, you're all united. So that's part of his strategy. And as I said, this is the biggest land grab since 1993 Oslo Accord, and it was done just as Mr. Blinken arrived in Israel. So, to me, if I were Tony Blinken, I would have gotten back on my plane and flown out and said, "I'm sorry, end of conversation, and I will take my $3.2 billion of aid and all of my weapons supplies with me." That's what I would have said.
Does he have the authority to do that?
The Biden administration has the authority to do that.
Or
Yes,
does
they
the
do.
Senate have the authority?
No, the Biden administration has the
They
authority.
can wield all that money around without
they-
permission from the Senate? And
They
the-
can stop the supply. Senate authorizes, the government administration implements. The implementation can be blocked. They can say,
But
"I'm
then
sorry."
that's going against the will of the Senate, which is the will of the people.
No, it's following the law. First of all, as I said before, the Israelis are misusing the weapons.
I get it. Let's say you're right about this. Okay.
If they're misusing
But
the weapons.
nonetheless,
Yeah.
though, the president should not have the authority to subjugate what the Senate and the Congress have decided.
If the law says you cannot use weapons for unauthorized purposes, the Senate cannot override that law unless it changes the law. The Senate would have to write a new law and say, "Oh, except for
You're
Israel."
getting emotional again.
I'm because your logic
I'm trying to find out here.
your logic is so bizarre. You're saying
Well, I guess I'm a bizarre character.
no. The point is that the law says weapons will be delivered to countries under the conditions that they use them for certain purposes, and if they misuse those weapons, we will not deliver those weapons to you.
By the way, today's broadcast is brought to you by Center for Advanced Eye Care. They've been a sponsor of our broadcast for 24. Well, I've been on the air for 29 years, and I think he came along. I don't know, we'll have to figure it out with Dr. Mel, but Center for Advanced Eye Care, it's where I go, where my wife goes, it's where my mother went when she was alive. No, they didn't kill her. Sorry, Mom, little joke there. Anyway, I saw an ambulance this morning, went by me, and I said, "It's kind of weird, but I don't have to worry that it's my mom because she's already dead." Isn't that weird? Death
Well,
and everything is just very
It is.
haunting.
You know, we all live in a transitory world. That's for sure.
It's transitory. Everything is.
And
I mean, I go into something and I go, they changed that. Well, get used to it because the only change of the river of life is that the river of life changes.
Yeah.
You can build yourself a little shack up on the side of the bank, but sooner or later the waters are going to come up and they're going to sweep away your little shack, and you're going to be taking yourself and you're going to go down the river of life, and that's it.
That's called the Nile.
The denial. Finally got our mansion on the Barrier Island, and 13 years later it's for sale. What happened? They died.
Right.
Times over, they got older and moved into a facility.
That's why you have to enjoy every day, Rhett. Every
Yes,
day.
you do.
You do. But we do want to try to help the world be a better place.
Yeah, we want peace.
And that's
We
an
all
important,
want peace.
important part.
Matter of fact, I pray for the peace in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I pray for peace in Gaza. I
Yeah.
pray for there to be peace to rule around the world.
Yeah.
May there be peace. May we all be in agreement
Yeah.
and call upon the living God. Let peace reign and rule in
And
the
these
hearts
and
of men.
these settler
In
communities.
Jesus' name we pray.
These settler communities need to stop. The United States has actually sanctioned some of the settlers for engaging in illegal settlements. Our United States citizens are sending millions of dollars to Israel to help build illegal
If people
settlements.
want to contact you, you got an email address?
No,
No, you don't want to give that out.
no. But I do want to mention on the settlers. I want to mention on the settlers.
Okay.
You've heard of Roman Abramovich,
I
who
have.
is a billionaire from Russia
Yeah.
of Jewish background.
Uh-huh.
He has been sending $100 million over a period of 10 years or so, $100 million to the Jewish settler community in Israel. He is one of the biggest backers of something called the Ir David Foundation.
Okay.
And the Ir David Foundation has been using all that money from Americans and now from this Russian oligarch to build all these settlements, illegal settlements out there on the West Bank.
How do you become a billionaire? I mean, I could understand you own a bunch of paint stores, and I pulled in $100 million last year, but how do you go to...
Russia has one of the highest number of billionaires in the world.
We're only above them.
Yeah, and the reason why Russia has it is because if you're a friend of Putin's,
Yes.
he will give you exclusive deals, and those deals come
So
with,
if I go there and he liked me, he could say,
he can make you a billionaire. Yes,
and he could say, yeah, you're going to be the king of the airwaves.
Right.
You know what though?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
deal
too
with the
old.
devil. It's a deal with the
no
devil.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw that guy. Did you see that Puff Daddy Combs last night? They're raiding his houses for,
No.
you know. Well, anyway, all these huge mansions.
Right.
I mean, so what? I mean, I guess for me it's a little easier, folks, because I've been in mansions.
Right.
And I've been with, you know, stars and stuff like that, being a talk
Yeah.
host. But I can tell you this right away. There's a lot of little houses I'd rather be in. It's big and empty. I go and see my friend. I walk through the front. Hello, 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 hello. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? They're upstairs. They got the elevator going up. In the house, they got a big kitchen. No, they got a kitchen.
got an intercom
and
system,
here I'm
right?
sitting. Well, here I'm sitting with somebody famous, and we're in the kitchen. Say, this is just like my kids, just bigger.
Yeah.
And then they get some fancy lights up coming on the ceiling that they paid, you know, $50,000 for. I mean, you know,
I know.
just I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad we got a chance to cover some of this stuff. So,
Maybe I'll win that $800 million.
Hey.
I bought a lottery ticket.
Okay.
You know,
Well-
there was a time as a Christian I thought it was a sin to buy lottery tickets.
Yeah.
I wonder if it is.
Well, if you buy one, that's fine because, you know, if you're meant to win, you're going to win. But by sitting there and throwing all of your retirement into buying lotto tickets, that's gambling.
Debbie Maycomber's
Yeah.
cousin
Yeah.
was a nun.
That's a congresswoman,
She-
right? Maycomer?
No, she's a New York Times bestselling author.
Oh,
18
okay.
number ones.
Oh.
But anyway, her cousin was a nun. She has to resign at age 60. She did. She comes to Florida, gets a job in South Florida from a school, but they decide to let her go. She's living in her car. She says, Lord, is this what you have? This is a true story. Is this what you have for me? Is this what your plan is? She goes into a 7-Eleven to get a cup of coffee. She buys a lottery ticket. $33 million.
No kidding. No
Yep.
kidding.
She has 8 homes now, and Debbie said she gave most of it away. Well, she's a Democrat,
Yeah.
a true Democrat, I guess.
Right. Well,
she's been giving it
that
away.
is an amazing story, though. That is an amazing story.
That is an amazing, true story.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if I won this $900 million, I was thinking, or billion, whatever, 1.5 billion. So I'm going to walk away with maybe $600 million. I say, what would I do? I'd say, I'd get maybe 5 major jets. And then I'd somehow have a lottery to take people from Vero Beach. We're all going to go somewhere.
Yeah, you could clean up this studio.
What do you mean, the studio? What are you talking about?
All right. Listen, I don't want to hold up our...
What
our-
would you do if you won the lottery? Hey, that's a good question for Vero's Voice magazine.
Yeah.
What would you do with the money if you won the lottery? Hey, have a nice